Over the years, Queen Elizabeth made several trips to Manitoba, her first as a princess in 1951, her last in July 2010 when she stopped in the city of Winnipeg. I want to bring on Dwight Macaulay now. He is Manitoba's former chief protocol officer in charge of that royal visit during the 2010 royal tour and has also met Her Majesty several times. Dwight, I want to begin by asking you, what is going through your mind in these few hours since the announcement was made?
Well, I think everybody in the world sort of expected something to happen, but it's nevertheless a shock when it does happen. And I'm certainly sad about it. And I think that is probably the case for millions, tens of millions, or hundreds of millions of people around the world right now. They're saddened at the loss of Queen Elizabeth. I mean, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, give me a sense of what she was like as a person. What was it like to be around her?
Well, you were in awe, quite frankly, to be around the Queen. At least I certainly was to be around the Queen. I thought it was a great honor to be in her presence and to meet her. As you mentioned, she's been to Manitoba a few times, and the 2010 visit was the last visit of Her Majesty to the province of Manitoba. But I found her to be very gracious. In fact, I think she was probably the definition of class, dignity, and grace. She was always so poised and so composed, and she loved meeting people. She loved meeting veterans. And not just, when I say people, not just middle-aged people and seniors who would flock by the thousands to see her, but also young people would show up to see the Queen and to get a glimpse of the Queen. And she always had time to stop and talk to them as well. She seemed to get real pleasure out of meeting people. And in Manitoba, the royal family has always been well received.
What will you remember the most about her? We're looking at some images of her now from her stops here in Manitoba. What will you remember?
There's a lot of things I'll remember. Obviously, one of the things that I will remember is the boat incident that happened in the middle of the Red River in 2002. But I think what I'll remember is just how fortunate I was to have a chance to work on that visit and be close and to meet Her Majesty. I mean, it's just a great honor. I hear this from people who've gone through where they've been standing on the sidewalk, for example, and the motorcade goes by years ago. In fact, you mentioned, I think, 1951 when her first visit happened. I had many people come up and tell me they know exactly what street they were on, what house they were in front of when the motorcade went by. And did she wave at them or not? Did Prince Philip wave? And it just left that much of an imprint in their memory. And I think that's true of millions of people who had a chance to see Her Majesty live. And no doubt there were millions and millions of people throughout her long career, her long reign, that had a chance to see her live. And of course, the thousands, tens of thousands of people that probably met her in person will always remember that meeting. I know I certainly will.
You were in charge of her visit in 2010. Tell me what that was like to have her here.
Well, it was terrific, really, to have Her Majesty here. One thing that struck me about that visit, it's kind of an oddity, but I'll mention it. Her Majesty, by the way, unveiled the cornerstone for the Canadian Museum of Human Rights. This was a stone we received from Runnymede, where the Magna Carta was signed, and we thought that was just very fitting for her to do that. But we had a mini concert at the Forks. The headliner there, I believe, was Miss Chantal Kreviazuk. But what was odd about that, the Queen went up on stage and met the performers and so on, like she always would. As soon as she was set to leave the Forks, and this was her final event, really, in Manitoba before she went to the airport, literally as soon as she got in the car, it started to rain. As we got to the military base, here again, literally, as soon as we drove onto the base, it stopped raining. She gets out with Prince Philip, and they say their goodbyes, and into the plane they go, and as the plane is taxiing out of onto the runway to leave Winnipeg, it starts to pour rain again. So that's one oddity, but it always stuck with me about maybe she's got more influence than we give her credit for.
Certainly a force to be reckoned with around the globe that will be missed by many. Dwight, I want to thank you for taking some time tonight, and take care.
Thank you very much. Pleasure, always.